Hey guys, LootWizard here with another Soulforge video for you, and so we're going to check out the weapons and troops as usual in the Soulforge, get the new troop, check out the event. So let's see what's in the Soulforge this week. Weapons, Slay the Bells. Deal 28 damage to an enemy and a random enemy, steal 1 magic from the enemy. That doesn't sound that good. I would pass on that. Prism Staff. This is probably an event weapon, so I'll check that out once we get there. Pretty sure it is, but choose a color, remove all gems that color. Yeah, okay, we'll take a look at that once we get to the event. Radiant Jewel. Okay, so this is Pan's Veil allies, mana generating weapon. There is some good, a few good Pan's Veil troops, but I don't think this is worth getting for this. Yasemin's Pride is actually a decent weapon. I wouldn't say that it's like a top tier, but it's definitely a good one for certain teams, especially in things like Delves. It'll eliminate all armor from an enemy. It gives all allies 28 life boosted by armor eliminated. Now, this weapon works really good for troops that have a damage boost based on its life, and you're giving all allies life. So troops kind of like Catchers the Bull, because it does damage based on all of its life, armor, and stuff like that. So using this weapon with something like Catchers the Bull is actually pretty good. Glaive of Many Goats. This is a wild folk mana generating weapon. This one's actually going to be better, I think, than the mana generating weapon Radiant Jewel. Just because Pan's Veil has a few good ones, but Wild Folk covers a lot more besides just Pan's Veil troops. And there's some really good Wild Folk troops in the game. They're some of my favorite to play with, so I would recommend getting this if you can spare the 300 diamonds. And now that these weapons are in here, I'm guessing the event, whatever it is going to be using Wild Folk or Pan's Veil troops. So I can go into a few like team ideas once we get that far. Now for troops, I'm going to go through the summoning stones really quick. Forest Troll is actually a really good troop to get. 12 mana cost. You can cut that in half to 6 if you use the Titan class, because this is a giant. Or if you use, there's the legendary troop from the Underworld, the Queen Miraji, which makes all elementals start with 50% mana. So you could also use that with this troop, and that troop, I believe, also converts all green gems into Doom Skulls. So that combination, this and that Queen Miraji, would actually be a pretty deadly combination, because this is going to double the green on the board. So I would, if you don't have Forest Troll, I do recommend trying to get that, and it's in the blue summoning stones. So let's go through here. Green, red, not much here. Yellow, not much there either. Purple, brown. Nope. So yeah, my only recommendation here for summoning stones is going to be Forest Troll right here. Right at the top, blue. Alright, let's take a look at the legendaries and the mythic troops here. So for legendaries, we have the Infernal King, Spooky Imp, and then Divine Ishbala and King Bloodhammer. Okay, so Infernal King, it's okay, not great. Spooky Imp, it's alright. These imps do gain 8 magic whenever you match the color of their mana. This one's purple. So if you do have some kind of troop that can loop a lot of purple matches, the damage can get pretty high. But it's not really a troop that I would go for, honestly, unless you're trying to collect the imps. If you are, now would be a good time to craft one, but I don't recommend getting it, crafting it otherwise. So for legendaries here, we have King Bloodhammer, which is a really, really good legendary troop. Deal spell damage to the 2 strongest enemies, and then it will transform all blue gems to Doom Skulls to boost the damage. And we do have a couple of options to get like Ice Storms going. You have the weapon like Jar of Eyes. You have Skady will give you an Ice Storm, and then there's that other troop, the legendary one, Lariza, from the Underworld, which will create a blue and purple storm. So if you use one of those troops with this, you can get a lot of blue on the board and do some really serious damage with those Doom Skulls. Now, Divine Ishbala is an amazing troop. Still use it all the time because it is it allows all Divine allies to start with 40% mana, which is key to some teams working really well. But this troop in combination with Keelan, which is another legendary troop that converts a color of gem to skulls. These two really go off of each other really well. So what this one does, it transforms red gems to skulls, green gems to yellow, and then it will enchant 2 random allies. Really great legendary troop. So what I'm going to do here is I would say Divine Ishbala is going to be just a little above King Bloodhammer for me. So I'm going to say Divine Ishbala is number 1 for legendaries, and King Bloodhammer's 2. And then I would say Infernal King 3, Spooky Imp 4, in order of like importance if you're going to craft one of them. But I never really recommend crafting any legendary troops because most of them do drop a lot easier in keys than mythics do, so it's better to save up your diamonds for mythic troops. Now, really quick here, let's talk about the mythics. We have Infernus, Doomclaw, the Worldbreaker, and Zillopochtli. And yes, I did practice how to say this a couple of times before a recording because that is a somewhat difficult name to pronounce. But I got it, I think. Zillopochtli. So now on the importance of these mythics, let's talk about this a little bit here. Infernus, it's still good, but it's not as powerful as it used to be. Honestly, I use Infernus mostly for things like Guild Wars and for clearing out like my daily dungeons and basic tasks because of the splash damage deals to 2 random enemies, which is going to hit all 4 of them, and then you get some mana generation. Doomed Claw, not amazing. Very low tier in my opinion. It does have some chances to devour enemies, but it's very low tier. Infernus is definitely better than that. Then we're dealing with the Worldbreaker. And Worldbreaker's pretty good. I like it in a full dragon team. Works really good, but it does deal damage to all enemies. So if they do submerge, you're going to not do any damage at all. So, but it will explode the whole board basically. 18 gems. That's one good thing about this troop, even if you get it early in the game, is that the amount of gems that it explodes is not depending on your current magic. So even if you get this troop when you're like level 1 in the game, if you're that lucky, it'll be 18 gems and it'll explode on the board, which is basically the entire board. Lots of mana generation. The offset to that, though, is that it's one of the highest mythics in the game for mana cost. You have 30 mana, but once you get it powered up the first time, you're going to get all this, the board is going to explode, and you're going to get a bunch of that mana back, so it's not that bad. So the Worldbreakers, it's an okay mythic. Coming in at very last is Zillopochtli, because it's just a bizarre troop. I've found that it really isn't that useful unless you're very, very early in the game and you get this. I guess I can talk about its ability just a little bit. It deals damage to an enemy boosted by purple gems. If there is a storm, deal double damage. But so if there's a storm, you'll deal about 60 damage to an enemy. Not a big deal. A lot of troops do that. A lot of legendary troops do damage similar or even more than that. Then it says if the enemy dies, create 12 skulls. It will deal 12 damage. This is the last trait here. It will deal 12 damage to a random enemy when matching yellow gems. Now, the bizarre thing is that you're not going to match yellow with this troop because it doesn't take yellow. And its boost to spell damage is based on purple gems. So it's kind of a really weird troop, and I've tried to use it, tried to figure out teams with it, and it really only works best if you're low level in the game. So now, in order of like importance of to craft these, I mean, it's hard to say because Infernus has really lost a lot of its usefulness over the years here, but I think I'm still going to put Infernus at number 1 and the Worldbreaker coming in at a close second. And then, I mean, it's hard between Zillopochtli and Doomclaw, but Doomclaw, I don't know, man. Doomclaw against Zillopochtli, who would win? Well, if Doomclaw actually does get a Devour off, I think it would be more powerful than Zillipochtli. So, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think I'm going to go with a tie on those two. So Infernus number 1, Worldbreaker to close second, and then I'm going to say Zillipochtli and Doomclaw are tied for last place. So that's my opinion there, really quick on that. And let's head over to the shop. Let's pick up the, I got to get my Spoils of War really quick before I forget. And weekly event, we have our new troop here, Argos, which is going to be a Pan's Veil troop. And we do get 2 Arcane Light Trait Stones for the cost of 400 glory. I almost said 40. That would be a deal. But 400 glory gets you 2 of those Arcane Light Trait Stones, which is actually still a good deal. So this troop here, choose a color. This is its spell. Choose a color, remove all gems of that color, dispel the first enemy, and drain their mana by the number of gems removed. So it's a controlling troop. You're gonna, removing gems from the board doesn't do anything for your troops unless you get cascades of matching mana. So destroying gems, exploding gems, always, there's mana generation guaranteed in that. If you remove gems, there's really no mana generation guaranteed in that. Then we have dispel the first enemy and drain their mana. So it's a drain type of troop. I probably won't use it, honestly. Just another troop to add in there to help get your kingdoms powered up. So let's check out the current event here real quick. It's called Rainbow's End, and it looks like halfway in the week here we're going to get sieges too. So 2 events will be going on there halfway through the week. Rainbow's End, and we'll grab our medal real quick. Hopefully it's spell damage, because I can't really think of any Wildfolk troop that, or Pan's Veil troop that actually creates skulls. So hopefully it's spell damage. If it's not spell damage, it's just going to be another bizarre. Oh yeah, and I should talk about this weapon real quick. Prism Staff here. Choose a color, remove all gems of that color, deal 32 scatter damage boosted by the gems removed. And the boost ratio is 2 damage for every gem removed. So you might get an extra 20 damage out of there maybe on average. So deal 50 scatter damage. It doesn't seem like that powerful of a weapon to me. Probably won't use it much. Let's go equip our medal and see here. Okay, it is spell damage. Good. Now we're going to be able to create a team here. So let's see if it's restricted to Pan's Veil or Wildfolk. And it's just to Pan's Veil. That's what it says here. So it's a little, I thought it was going to be Wildfolk. That would be definitely better. But there's enough in Pan's Veil where we can get a good team going. So as far as mythic troops, we are working with Pan, which is an amazing mythic, by the way, because it has such a high magic damage. And it also, on its final trait, it will gain 1 magic whenever you match 4 or more gems. So a lot of magic damage potential on that guy. Wild Queen, still one of my favorite, most powerful mythics to use. It steals attack from an enemy, gives it to the first ally, and then it creates a mix of 22 skulls and green gems. Also a really fantastic troop there. 2 really good mythics we can use. But this is skull damage. And yeah, earlier I was like, yeah, Pan's Veil. I can't really remember if there's a troop that creates skulls. Well, I forgot about Wild Queen. How could I do that? Please forgive me, Queen. How could I forget you? Of course. So they could have done that, but they didn't. So actually, I wouldn't use this one then for this event, because it is creating skulls. We need to focus on spell damage. So if you do have Pan, I would use this. I'm probably going to throw that in there right now. King Selnus is going to be okay. It does spell damage. The main thing I would use it for is right here. The Wildfolk will start with 50% mana. Luna is a legendary troop that you get from the Underworld, from the Warrens, and it is a really good legendary troop. It's going to be good for this event too, so if you have it, probably this would be a go-to. It deals damage to all enemies, and then it inflicts 1 or 2 status effects on all enemies, or grants 1 or 2 status effects on all allies. So really good troop there as well. I'm going to pop that in there just because I'm building a team here of a few that I think are good. Now, for some of you lower level players, you're going to have Elwyn. And Elwyn is a really strong troop. Now, it's only going to do damage to one enemy instead of the whole enemy team. But it is boosted by yellow gems destroyed. And a little bit of mana generation, too, with the destroy a row and a column. So this is a really good troop for some of you lower level players to use that. Just going to look here to see what else we're working with. Satyr Musician is also a really good one to use. Deals damage to the first two enemies, steals 2 magic, and then it silences them. So that's a good one to use as well. And we have Trickster here, which is a mana generator. It starts battles with 75% mana if you do have it fully traded. And then it will explode 14 green gems, or how much your magic is there. And it'll do a little switcheroo with the first and last enemies. So yeah, that's a good kind of mana generator to pop in there. But we'll see here. Pan, is really great. It's going to be good for later in the game. Trying to think. We got to look at weapons too. But I'm just going to throw this one in here real quick, just because that we might want to use that for mana generation. Alright, so let's take a look at the weapons really quick. Base rarity. Okay, so we have Orpheus's Loot, which is a decent weapon for enchanting all of your allies. We have Garland Staff, deal scatter damage, and then grant status effects to all allies. That's really good. We also have Glaive of Many Goats. I talked about that earlier, which since we're using all wild folk, I probably will go ahead and throw that in there. And then we have Yasemin's Pride, but that really won't help us do damage in this event. So that's pretty much all we got here to work with weapons. Garland Staff and Glaive of Many Goats is probably going to be my 2 top choices for weapons during this event. But since yellow and green are pretty, we got Luna and Pan, for that color. So since Glaive of Many Goats is my is a mana generator, so I don't need Trickster down here. So we're just going to pop that in there. And I'm going to put Luna above Pan just because it does damage to all enemies. And that's going to eliminate the whole team here in early stages. Once it gets later on, when enemies have more health and armor, I'll probably do a switch on that and do Pan above it. But for now, that's what I'm going to do. And then we will do... I need to select a banner here. What mana are we creating? Well, probably yellow and green, right? Yep, yellow and green. So we're going to do banner for yellow and green. And I'm going to focus on yellow as primary because this explodes gems on when I'm getting yellow. Now, we can do 2 things here. I could do the Bard class, which is a wild folk, which means this would generate more mana because the mana is based on how many wild folk allies are there. So I could do that, which the Bard class, actually, if you trade it, it will allow all yellow allies to gain 1 to all stats at the start of each turn. Which Luna has yellow, Pan has yellow, King Salnus has yellow, so they're all going to be gaining 1 to magic. So that's probably what I will go with here. But I will say that I would suggest another class, which is the Stormcaller, just because the Stormcaller is going to create a light storm at the start of every turn. And so that would also be useful since you're using a lot of yellow in this kind of a team right here. Even if you only have Luna in here, and you don't have Pan or King Salnus, the Stormcaller still might be good because you're going to be focusing on that yellow with Luna. So we'll just do a quick battle here. And nothing's powered up completely except for the weapon, so we're just going to use it. And hopefully we get 4 match for extra turn. So this is probably the team that I'm going to use for the event, but I do realize that it is very mythic and legendary oriented. I got 1 mythic Pan in there and then 2 legendary troops. But Luna isn't really that difficult to get because it is a troop down in the underworld. You just got to save up enough shards and just keep spending your portal shards down there in the Warrens, and you should get Luna eventually. Might take 1,000 or a couple thousand portal shards, but it should drop for you down there. So, yeah, that right there is my suggestions for the different teams that you could use. That's the primary team that I'm going to use, but those are some troop ideas. So I think that's pretty much all I have for you guys this week. Nothing else really going on, I don't think, except for all the usual stuff like class trials and faction assaults and all that kind of good stuff. So, thanks for watching my videos, as always, guys. I love you, and I'll catch you on the next one. Later.